Relic Connect event. Wonderful to see you all. I think we have a very large number of people over here. Two very interesting, insightful presentations by Chris and Manav. What we will do now is follow that through with a conversation, a fireside chat with a customer of ours that runs a very large stack, tech stack, and has vast experience using observability. Great pleasure in inviting Sumit Malhotra, CIO of Times Internet, on stage. Very warm welcome. Thank you very much for sparing your time, coming down from the National Capital Region to be with us today. And I think we've got a very good cross-section of people over here with technology backgrounds who would really find it useful to hear about your experience, because you run a tech stack at vast scale. But before we go ahead, I thought it would be great to hear from you about yourself and the company that you work for and the time that you've had over there.
My name is Sumit. I work as a CIO for Times Internet. Times Internet is one of the largest digital products company in India. We have properties in news with flagship properties like TOI, Economic Times, Navbharat Times. We have properties in real estate with Magic Bricks. We have presence in cricket with CricBuzz and Willow. We also operate in personal finance with ED Money app. We have enterprise applications with TechGig and TimeJobs, and a plethora of other applications. We reach about 500 odd million users every month. So the scale is big. I'm responsible for maintaining the scale. My core responsibility is largely toward making sure things are available, things are secure, and performing. So yeah, that's my core responsibility.
And you've been building this up over a period of almost a decade, right?
I think 2 decades now. Yeah,
Okay,
so we started about 99, maybe more actually, so 25 years.
Great journey so far. I've spoken with Sumit a few times before. Lovely stories to hear about their tech stack, the challenges they've had. So maybe later in the evening when we are at cocktails, you can have a chat with him. Moving on, Sumit, you said you have 500 million users. I know you have over 40 plus digital products in the market, wide variety, right? Users across the globe, particularly the Indian diaspora, which is present, everywhere. And the demands on the technology is fairly intense. And you have different sets of offerings over there. How do you manage all these competing sets of, demands and resources in the technology space?
One word?
No. One word later on. Now, a couple of sentences.
Okay. So I think it's difficult. Okay. In one word, 7 years ago, I was managing it barely. See, we do touch a lot of users, so we have humongous amount of scales. And every second of downtime, being a digital-only platform, is a big revenue loss for us. Now, these products comprise of about 4,000 odd applications or microservices, some legacy, some new gen, some built on stacks which probably use new gen functions like edge functions, server-side implements on the edge. Some probably still on the legacy era of using Java and DB2. Some somewhere in the middle with typical stack of Python and RDBMS or DocDB you would call. So we have plethora of things. And now to make things complicated, we have hybrid cloud. So I run a private cloud which runs all these experiences, which runs VMware, which runs KVM, which bus to a public cloud, whether it's whatever the prominent players are. So we do a lot of stuff, and things are a lot more complicated. But the way we look at the application, I think considering that resiliency and reliability is very, very important. I think we focus a lot on architecture. So you want to make sure that you don't have single point of failures anywhere. You actually make sure that you double check across every deployment that you're not trying to break anything. You're not trying to introduce some query which is going to cause a problem when the traffic actually peaks up in the morning or at a big event, which probably sometimes happens, we don't even know. So things are a little bit complicated, but architecture helps us a little bit more sane. But there are three pillars in my mind, three pillars in totality, other than the 2 points apart from architecture, which are very, very important. Because no matter what you do, things will break. So if things will break, it's very, very important for you to have right kind of metrics, monitoring in place, so that you actually have access to the data to diagnose what's the problem is. Then the third piece is to figure out a way to leverage that intelligence or information which you have received from different sources to triage an issue and remediate the problem faster. I think doing all these things requires a lot of skills, and that's where New Relic helps us a lot. We've been leveraging and using New Relic for over 7 years now, maybe more than 7 years, across the stacks in various places and shapes and forms. So I think that's what we do.
Wonderful, Lear. And all of this has been built over a period of time, right, by you and your team.
Yeah, largely by my team. I don't build anything. I only take credit for that, but everything is built by my team. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, in the business that you are, a second's downtime matters, right? And what I'm really trying to understand over here is from an observability perspective. Just harkening back to what Manav covered of the 5 things that observability does. The first was uptime and reliability. The second was, developer productivity. So from managing your applications, right, and also providing the kind of uptime and reliability, can you kind of tell us how observability helps you over there? Some examples.
I think everything starts with observability. Not just as a tech stack. I think human nature, the better they can observe, the better they can solve the problem, and the better they can fix the problem and move on to the next one. I think that's how we look at it. So observability is key. I think we start and end with observability in identifying what the problems are, probably preempting them, and then making sure that if they have happened, fix them quickly, and then doing a post-mortem to make sure that we take that input and then put it into architecture and making things more resilient so that it doesn't happen again. So there are a lot of things which we do to improve uptime, especially from New Relic perspective. One of the things which is core to our ecosystem is to using New Relic data lake. So I think there was mention here, I think by Chris, that PPO, I think there is a tool sprawl all over. And I think we do have some tool sprawl, even now. I know the idea is to control as much as we can. While New Relic is great at controlling those sprawls, you have to figure out a way to manage the overall ecosystem and make sure that the right information is available to the people when they're diagnosing the problem. Because if you push too much data in front of the developer when he's trying to triage an issue, it's almost impossible to make sure that it gets remediated within the seconds or minutes or whatever the MTTR you're trying to follow. See, the people here, I think, are great, and I think especially in India, I would not say outside India, but people are great at responding in time because we do not have regulations like you have in France in which you cannot have people call after 6, right? But here people are happy to respond. So the most companies like I work with, I speak with, they all have a culture in which people are always come on time, 3 to 5 minutes, but resolution is where the problem is. So the idea starts with that the only way to reduce and save those seconds is to not just be thrown into a pool of data, but to be shown actionable intelligence, shown into places where you should look on point 1 as opposed to iterating through 10 dashboards and then trying to find what is the right place where you should have started with it.
Which is very, very relevant, particularly in the kind of stack that you have. In fact, you were explaining your stack, and it almost felt like you name it, we have it, right?
Yeah, it's actually absolutely right. We probably have, uh, we run like a mini AWS on-prem. It's, you name it and we have it. We probably have legacy codes running on our ecosystem to old gen Java to new gen Python to edge size includes to server side includes to edge functions to Lambda functions. And if you look at the technology stack or programming, we have Python, we have Java, we have Golang, we have C++. And I think you name it, we have it across. And managing observability is actually across all these stacks, especially when you actually have so much change all around going on. At the moment, we have probably pushed about 1,000 builds a day. So there is a continuous change which is actually happening. Typical method of triaging an issue requires, like, used to have runbooks, right? So I think 7, 8 years ago, they were really common, especially in a conglomerate in which they will write saying, hey, if this happens, these are the 10 things you need to follow. Now the challenge for us is that these runbooks continue to change. They continue to change at a pace at which it's impossible for you to document. And while there are changes which you can figure out, okay, like I'm going to put a change management, I'm going to put a method to detect new change has been pushed. There are a lot of things which you cannot even detect. Like, for example, how can you detect an outage in Mumbai ISP causing a performance degradation to your app? And how can you say a third-party system overwhelming your system and creating an outage? And when you have large teams, irrespective of how collaborative your structure is, how collaborative you promote, and how many collaboration platforms you have to make it more and more cohesive, it at times becomes very, very difficult for you to know in one click that you know that what has happened in the last 30 minutes or 60 minutes. Something must have been done by a security team. Something might have been done by a traffic management team. Something might have happened on third party. Something might have happened in some other geo. So with so many moving wheels, I think observability is a new thing which unlocks so many problem solution method for you. You can, I think Mana put it probably absolutely right. We actually leverage it for 3 different use cases. We try to figure out how to solve it for availability, improving uptime, improving customer experiences. But we also leverage it for reducing our risk, improving our compliance. And then, of course, there is a big angle to cost. At any times, people feel that putting everything together in one place is very, very costly. But I think it's important for you to weigh in the balances of what the value it brings in when you actually are querying one data lake opposed to 20. Because at times you're talking to 20 different things, and they all have different way of identifying each asset. So how do you correlate 20 different data lakes if if the asset is defined and identified differently by each? So observability is key, centralization is key. It's important for us to weigh in and look at observability to see what power it can unlock for an enterprise.
Which is also the impact of a single source of truth for your overall organization also.
Yes, I think single pane of glass, I think everybody wants it. I think it's like a holy grail, everybody wants it. I don't think anybody would say I don't want it, but nobody has it. Even now, you still have to, even if you have the best of the tools available, you still have to move into multiple tools to figure out on what's wrong at times. Now, we are moving towards single pane of glass, but it's important for us to identify what we want from single pane of glass. You should look at, say, okay, I want to see and preempt problems. So if you have a single pane of glass which tells me what a particular change for a developer, let's say I'm a developer, I pushed a change, what that change particularly has, what stress it has made on the CPU utilization, whether it has made it better, whether it made it worse, what impact it has on the dependent services which might be consuming it. Because at times, small amount of latency at the off hours you push the change is significant enough to cause an outage at the peak time. So the single pane of glass it's key. You need everything unified at one place. And the more the unified, the better it is. Because you don't have to spend time in context switching 20 places. Because every time you switch from one place to another, you end up losing 2 minutes, and you have to think through. And it creates nuisance because you have to train your engineers to fiddle through 20 tools as well, right? So how do you bring a consistent triaging when a new engineer does not even know where to look? So if, let's example, there is an outage, and you do not have a unified pane of glass and you have observability distributed across issue, you will have to look at infrastructure monitoring, you'll have to look at performance monitoring, you'll have to look at if the problem is caused by a change, let's say, in a CI/CD pipeline, it could be probably caused by an issue on the WAF policy, something must have triggered. It could be a performance regression of the CDN. It could be so many things, right? So how do you go through so many interfaces and figure out what's wrong? So unless you actually have everything unified at one place, the more the unified, the better it is. So it's just makes things simple.
Yeah. And powerful.
Yes,
Very powerful.
very powerful.
Seriously. Manav said he took 13 minutes to get to the word, Gen AI. We've taken 16. But I love what he said. And I hope I get it right. Observability without AI is a missed opportunity. AI without observability is a danger. I hope I got it right. Can't see. But
Yeah,
from your perspective on AI observability.
see, we see Gen AI, especially in observability, to be useful for making things accessible with limited training. Okay, so I'm old. My picture is probably new, but I'm old. So I have a 25 years of experience in the industry. So I come from a background in which putting somebody on call requires 6 months, 9 months of the system because people doesn't know what it is, right? So how do you, if you don't know how the system is responding, how it's designed, there is no way for you to triage an issue. But I think things have moved and accelerated. Now things are changing every time, right? So that 6 to 9 months never ends. While you still have, while experience plays still a crucial role, you want the new guy to start contributing quickly. So how do you make sure that the experience, the new guy brings in, let's say, with 10 days in the company, in triaging an issue, is as consistent as a guy who's been in the system for a year? I think that's where Gen AI plays a role, right? So you go, ask Gen AI, saying, hey, this is what it is. Can you tell me something about it? It helps you make things simpler. So people can just go ask anything. We use Gen AI in various shapes and forms, but this is one of the core use cases, which brings us consistent triaging across the enterprise. So we don't wait for 6 months or 9 months for an engineer to go online. While we have a certification process, but I see that after Gen AI has been introduced, that process has really accelerated. Another place we use Gen AI for is communication. We have great team of engineers. Some of them maybe do not actually know how to communicate the right problem to the audience, especially when they are under the gun, right? So basically, when everybody is like shivering, saying, "Hey, I have like 10 minutes to figure a problem before an incident commander comes and knock on your door saying, hey, what's actually happening?" Actually, it's easier for you to make him comfortable by saying, "Hey, you tell what you want to say," and then the communication can just go, right? So we used to earlier use templatized-based mechanism, but you cannot templatize everything. It's like that. So, but Gen AI actually helps you solve that problem. And the more empower you make your engineers while triaging an issue, the better it gets. The better it gets in terms of productivity, better it gets in terms of customer experience, better it gets in terms of availability. So it's like make your employees happy, everything becomes cool, right? Super cool.
Thank you. Love the example of how a newbie comes up to speed very, very quickly. But over the last 10, 20 years, there was a time at Times Internet when you didn't have observability, right? How was it before? Conference calls, video calls. How was it before observability, life before observability?
Nightmare. It was a nightmare, honestly. So I have a great team, I think, and considering we are a digital-only company, and I think it's we are very, very sensitive towards downtime. So while CDN and various other layers of caching actually shields us from a poor code causing a major outage and poor customer experience, but we have a culture in which if there's an outage, even now, within 30 minutes, the call automatically reaches the CEO of the company, and he would be coming on the call, 30 minutes. And considering his time was 30 minutes for a P1, mine was 10. So 7, 8 years ago, I used to be on call at least maybe twice or thrice a month, at the very minimum. That I'm talking about is P1. Okay. But once observability came in, I think it created something which is very natural. Now I realize it, but that's what the beauty is. When you look at when you implement observability smartly and you try to use the power it gives it to you, it helps you identify what the problem is. Okay? Because earlier what used to happen is there is an outage, the problem comes, and by the time the engineer logs in and try to take a trace, things are already solved, right? So, or somebody has identified and he said, no, let me just restart the application. So he's already taken a restart. So we don't have a thread dump, we don't have a heap dump. There is no way for me to triage and troubleshoot a problem. So I have to wait for a next instance of an incident to happen. Then only I can figure out what actually happened. But with observability, that diagnosis is something which is always possible, right? Now, one might say that you have plenty of monitoring data, even at that point in time, why you couldn't triage an issue. I think while data is important, but I think what everybody needs is intelligence, actionable intelligence, to solve and figure out what actually went wrong, right? So observability is key in finding out what is it that you need to fix and what is actually caused the problem to happen. So that's something which we really, that's the big change which actually happened. And then there is a feedback loop. So you observe, you remediate, and then put this back into mode. So it's a feedback loop, continuous loop. So as long as you're traversing that loop, your application, your architecture, everything is going to go get better and better. And today, I can probably say in 6 to 9 months, even now, maybe more, I've never been on any P1 call. Zero. Because it just doesn't happen. Because over a period of time, your system will become so robust and people will become so smart because you have empowered, you don't just made them accountable for MTTD, but you have empowered them to the right tools to solve for MTTR. That's the metric which business, anyway, look forward to reducing all the time. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Great examples over there. I was just thinking, proactive, right? Any examples of how you've detected problems before it started causing trouble for the customer?
Well, I think many times. Many times. So when you look at observability, it gives you insight about, I just gave an example, but I'll try to reiterate. So the idea of observability is to tell you what actually is happening inside the application, inside the ecosystem which drives the application, and all the external endpoints which are actually responsible for making sure that you are able to deliver those experiences to your customers. So observability is all around. So our developers are so used to now to looking at our new Relic dashboards and our SPOG dashboards to see what is the impact of the new change which they have recently pushed in alpha beta testing on the overall application. If there's even a minuscule difference, the engineering manager asks them to troubleshoot and identify the reasons before they push and go live. So this itself avoids so many problems which you were earlier falling prey to. Second thing is, I think one of the great things, again, we've been using New Relic for last 4 years. I think you introduced 4 or 5 years ago, you introduced golden signals. So that's something which really helps. Most monitoring systems are work in a way in which if your traffic goes beyond an X number, like example, your CPU is crossing a defined threshold. What if the traffic goes down, and it goes down dramatically, and which is not natural for that particular time? That's what golden signals are about. So we use leverage golden signals to preempt, saying, hey, possibly something is wrong. My infrastructure monitoring probably is not saying anything. My performance monitoring is not saying anything. Nothing is saying anything, but these signals indicate there is something which is happening, which is weird. So go troubleshoot and figure out before it starts to cut.
That's wonderful, yeah. We're slowly running out of time. Sumit, wonderful conversation so far. I was just thinking maybe we could cover a couple more points I've just noted over here. One, in terms of the resources that you have, what is it that you've been able to do with New Relic? And also, going forward, what are your top 2 observability priorities that you have on mind?
I think in the beginning there was a video by one of the gentlemen. I think he captured it actually absolutely right. The developers, once you actually have a right observability platform deployed and you actually have all the bells and whistles around it to make sure that people are adopting and using it, they're using and to unlock various things which we already talked about. I think it's about giving the people freedom on what they want to work on as opposed to what they must work on, right? So it's about giving them the choice, hey, I want to work on the new product build as opposed to figuring out what actually happened, what messed it up, right? So I think that's the core, and we have so many examples in which we improved and developer productivity, engineers productivity on the SRE side, productivity on the NOC side, that it's observability has become de facto standard across all our stacks. Even our CEO, if there is an incident that actually happens, he would end up using those words because he understands what observability has changed for Times Internet and various digital experience we drive for us.
Wonderful to hear.
Related to 2 priorities, I think for everyone, everything starts with uptime. So if everybody wants to make sure their applications are resilient, they're always up, then they move on to customer experiences. Our journey is very similar. So we moved on to customer experiences way back. Now, our focus is largely towards remediating risk, being more compliant, and making sure that we are able to create and reduce and optimize our cost. So these are the 2 new areas where we feel observability will be key. So while one end, people might feel that pumping more data might cost them more, but it can give you insights to identify and save millions of dollars. And I have examples in which I have seen a poor GIF image or poor JPG image at our scale can cause $500,000 spent over 3 months getting unnoticed if it's not observability. Right? So if you follow observability principles and follow it diligently, you actually end up saving more money than what you end up spending. That's what I think.
That's wonderful, yeah. And I hope you're quantifying and showing that to your CEO too. That hey, all of this is helping you save money.
That's a tough question to crack, but yeah, I try to. But see, the idea is that everybody wants more, and the whole discussion every time when we look at observability is, can we do more? And the answer for every discussion which I have is yes, we can do more. The idea is what more you are willing to look for, and what more effort you are willing to put to unlock that power for the organization you work with.
Absolutely, and that kind of a challenging environment is what keeps people like you going forward, Sumit. Thank you very much for those great insights into how you leverage observability at Times Internet, which is a multinational technology company, leading edge. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.